the United States. His national security advisor, General H.R. McMaster, has tried to guide this White House through the minefields of foreign policy. But with hotspots like North Korea and the Middle East, that's no easy task. So what are the challenges ahead? In a rare, extensive interview, he discusses this administration's policies and strategies with me. General McMaster, thank you so much for doing the interview. There is a feeling internationally that this administration is withdrawing from its responsibilities as a leader of the world.
Well, actually, the opposite is the case. America is engaged in meaningful and important ways across the world. So it's the United States that is helping to lead this really global coalition to cope with the nuclear threat from North Korea. Unprecedented levels of sanctions and economic and diplomatic isolation to convince Kim Jong-un that he can't threaten the world with the most destructive weapons on Earth.
You have described North Korea as the biggest threat to this nation and the world. And you've also said that it's our last best chance to take action before we need to take military action. What do you mean by last chance?
Well, it means we're running out of time. So what this regime has done over the years is develop nuclear weapons. It's a program they started back in the 1970s. And then when the international community grows more and more concerned about the provocations, whether it's a missile test or a nuclear test, oftentimes what the regime has done is they've just said, okay, we're ready to negotiate. The pressure is alleviated. They continue their nuclear programs. They continue their missile programs. They sign a weak agreement, which then they immediately break. And so after they pull in all the benefits of the agreement, we can't do that anymore because we are out of time. I mean, their
so
program
when you say out of time, then what line do they need to cross?
Well, it's really just continuing what they're doing requires all of us in the world to not only enforce the existing UN sanctions against the regime, but to do all we can. As the president has said, cut off trade with the North. Cut off fuel to the North. It's hard to fire a missile, if you don't have fuel, for example. So there are ways to resolve this problem short of military conflict, and we don't have a lot of time to do that. So really what we're emphasizing is this really campaign of maximum pressure to convince Kim Jong-un that what he's doing is a dead end for him.
He's not willing to give up his weapons, though.
Well, certainly not as of now. That's not the case. So what it means is we have to do more.
But are you committed to a peaceful resolution to this?
Of course, that's what we want. But we're not committed to a peaceful. We're committed to a resolution. We want the resolution to be peaceful. But as the president has said, all options are on the table, and we have to be prepared if necessary to compel the denuclearization of North Korea without the cooperation of that regime.
Leading Republicans, such as Senator Lindsey Graham, have said that there's a 30% chance of war. And if they continue with these missile strikes, it could go up to 70%. Is war imminent?
The chances of war, who knows what they are. They could go up or down, I think, based on what we all decide to do. I mean, North Korea is a grave threat to all civilized people across the globe.
The Russians have also said that actually they're not quite sure that the United States is committed to resolving this crisis. They've said when there was a period of calm, the United States started to conduct these joint military exercises with the South. They took unilateral sanctions. They described North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Well, this is really what's funny about the behavior of some countries in the world. What they say is instead of really placing blame where it ought to be blamed on this rogue regime, who has committed murder of its own people, who's engaged in systematic violation of their rights, who has destroyed the lives of their people by creating this hell in North Korea. I mean, the South Korean economy, is 40 times larger than the North Korean economy. There is no more compelling example of a failed system on earth than North Korea. And I think if any nation or any leader then tries to blame the United States for the threat that emanates from this rogue and horrible regime, it's just not credible. It's just not credible. What we hope to do with Russia and with other nations is to act in our common interests. This is an area really where our interests, I think, completely overlap with Russia's. Russia could not be happy about a nuclear-armed North Korea. Again, not only because of the direct threat it poses, but also because of the potential breakdown of that non-proliferation regime.
But what about China? Because China's saying, more or less, it's saying it takes two to tango. They're saying that you can't focus on one side alone, that the United States needs to take more responsibility, bring down the rhetoric.
No, what China's saying are three fundamental things that are very important. China is saying that that North Korea is not a problem between the United States and North Korea. It's not a problem between the United States and North Korea. It's a problem for the world. It's a problem for China as well.
Then why won't China impose a 100% oil embargo?
Well, we think that they should take that under consideration. I mean, China